As a leader, do you find it challenging to create or come up with simple, effective solutions? If so, this video may help you. I did an article quite a long time ago about this topic, 5 months ago or so at least. I'll put the link right there to an article that talks about the same thing. I think I called it How Smart People Are Dumb, something like that. And it's really, really true. And the reason I say this is it's easy to make something complicated, complicated. It is a challenge. And if you watch exceptional teachers, you see this all the time. Some of the smartest people I know teach kids, and they are so good at it because they can take even complex things and make them simple. Many years ago when I was in university, my professor was a fellow named David Naylor. He's actually quite famous. NASA sometimes phones this man for help. But if you took any of his classes, you wouldn't really feel like it unless you were in one of his more advanced physics classes. He could teach advanced stuff really simply. So real genius is in being able to make complex things simple. So if you get any value out of what I'm going to talk about today, I would love it if you could follow, share, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff would be great. Okay, thanks. So I actually came up with the idea of doing this video after troubling over a simple problem that had a simple solution, but I get caught up myself in unnecessarily complex stuff. I like complexity. So that can be a problem. And really what it was I'm striving to eat a healthier diet. I eat mostly vegan, that is 6 days a week or so. I usually don't eat meat. I'm eating nice and healthy, but I'm also trying to do the intermittent fasting, as they call it. And that's a daily eating window. Instead of, you still eat every day, but say you eat for the first 8 hours of the day and then you fast for the next 16. Sometimes it's really tough because you can get really hungry. You're not starving to death. You already ate for 8 hours, as much as you wanted, provided it's healthy food. But sometimes you just go, I just can't stand this. And then the easy solution is junk food because it tastes good, but it's obviously not where you're wanting to go. Came up with a stupidly simple solution. Well, I could just be eating as much vegetable soup as I wanted, like homemade vegetable soup. So that's an example of a ridiculously simple solution to hunger and satisfying it low calorie, right? So in businesses, this is oftentimes the same challenge. Coming up with a complex, expensive, hard to integrate solution into your system, solving a client's problem. Well, coming up with a really expensive, complex thing is comparatively easy to coming up with a almost stupidly simple solution. So this is more of a sort of a philosophy crush it club today, I guess. And that is in business as well as in life. If and only if it's effective enough to meet your minimum acceptable requirements, start looking at the embarrassingly obvious solutions. When people, this is actually something that 𝗏 talks about in his book, Winning the Brain Game, what he calls self-censoring, that oftentimes we come up with a solution that seems too easy and too obvious. So out of fear of being ridiculed or whatever, we decide not to share it with anybody, only to find out later somebody else comes up with a solution. Everybody's going, yeah, that's awesome. And it's not about getting the credit for coming up with a solution. It's about not fearing something that is ridiculously simple. So as long as the ridiculously simple and obvious fulfills the requirements and meets your minimum standard of quality, which ideally should be high anyway, then that's a great solution. Another brilliant example is, maybe you've seen them, there's these kids' bikes, and there's actually what they call an additive bias in the psychology of human beings. That is, it is easier for us to think about accumulating and acquiring. It's a evolutionary leftover, right? More food, good. More weapons, good. That kind of thing. So we actually have a challenge doing what I can't remember, a very famous designer talked about. The idea of a perfect design is one that not has nothing left to add, but that has nothing left to take away. So that's kind of the essence of this and the essence of the thing I'm talking about here, which is a kid's bike. Instead of putting additional wheels, that is training wheels on the bike, so that kids can learn to balance on their bike, some simple genius came up with a better idea. Remove the pedals. Let the kids be able to reach the ground and they can run and then coast. They never feel fear falling because now they would just put their feet down. If they're nervous, they can just put their feet down. So that's an example of subtraction. Another one, which is stupidly simple, yet I don't know anybody, somebody came up with it, but I think it was actually 𝗦𝗶𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗵 of Black Swan, the author of Black Swan, who talked about it in his book. And that was, why did it take us like 12 or 1500 years to put wheels on suitcases? So believe me when I say there are solutions out there this ridiculously simple. So that is already the essence of what I'm going to talk about. So if the solution seems too simple and too obvious, examine it first before throwing it out. Now, one of the other beauties of being able to look at simple solutions on anything, whether it's products, whether it's systems, whether it's HR arrangements, if it's finding employees, which I talked about in a recent episode, how to find exceptional talent. Some of it's simple, but only if you use it. Only if it even occurs to you that it isn't too simple to use. So one of the beautiful things about doing a really simple, very often easy to implement and inexpensive solution is you can implement it immediately and get my favorite thing back, and that is empirical data. You take the thing, you test the thing, and in fact, I'm reading or listening to Entrepreneurship 2.0 by Jim Collins, and he refers back to a lot of his old books, and he was talking about first shoot with bullets and then with cannonballs. It's sort of the same thing, right? So you have a simple, low investment thing, a test, an MVP of some kind, something like that. You test it in the market or you test it against the environment. You get objective data and you use that data to then invest heavily, which is the cannonball in that analogy. So by doing it cheap, fast, and simple, by trying out, by daring the simple, as long as it meets the basic requirements, it's worth trying because it gives you that immediate data back, that empirical data to then you can take and improve iteratively. That is, take your feedback and make a better version, obviously. But more than that, it doesn't have to be incremental iterations. It could be giant leaps. You might get enough insight from doing the stupidly simple version of something that you come up with a disruptively innovative thing by striving for simplicity. Simplicity can be hard, but start with simple simplicity and see whether you can get that to work. If you can, there's no reason to add complexity to it. Saying all that I've said, though, there's nothing wrong with incremental improvement. It's just if you can leverage it even further and make it disruptive improvement by going after simple, that's even better. So after you've done all this, you do some iterations, you get it to where you want, and then you can scale it up, which is like firing that big cannonball. So that's it for Crush It Club number 111, How to Solve Things Simply. My name is Tim B. Green. Bye for now.